Hey, everybody, and welcome to a brand new episode of Dylan Knows, episode 206. And guess what? I got MJ back also. Last week it was Jerry, now I got MJ. Yay. Hey, MJ.
The gang's all back together again.
Yeah, I love it. I'm great. It's great. So how you doing, man?
I'm doing well. Yeah, it's been a rough summer, as we've said. You know, I've had some passes, this summer. My mom passed away, and 3 weeks ago our dog passed away, and it's just been rough. But, I'm going to be ready for this summer to be over and start over again in the fall. So it's going to be good.
Yeah, it's going to be great. I mean, this week, I don't know if it's like this down where you were at, but we're in like the upper 70s. It's gorgeous out. No humidity. Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah, there's a nice cool breeze blowing. It's a beautiful weekend. I hope it's not because it's so horrible out in Texas right now, but that's probably part of it. So
yeah, and we do need to give our hearts and prayers to them because we've got a bunch of snark Alex in Texas, and luckily my friend Eric A now who's out there, he's been posting regular updates, and Shannon's been talking, and Lisa Marie Bowman are the few, and I think not Pinky, but Holly, I think, is down that way also. So hopefully they're all going to be okay. I've heard from a few of them and seen from a few of them, so it's in good shape. Yeah. But we're here to talk about comics. That's what MJ and I do. But real quick though, since I haven't talked to you in about a few months, what's going on with your writing? Because you are a world-renowned writer.
Well, somebody's world. No, actually, it's actually been good. I've been off for probably about a month and a half now. I got behind schedule, but I've almost finished my first urban fantasy novel, so that one will be done probably in another few more days. I'll get that one finished. Then I've got 2 more of those planned, and I'm releasing those. See what happens. First venture into urban fantasy. I love the genre, so I'm going to try writing in that one as well. So.
Just in time for Christmas.
There you go.
Which is not that far away.
Wow, is it really? Man.
Oh, yeah. And the thing is, and when you're a writer, one of the things that, or you want to be writer, the thing all writers tell you is just write. So since I haven't seen you in a while, I've been writing also, but not as often as I want to. And it's not quite the same, but I know it's going to sound a little weird, but my wife is obsessed with Pokemon Go, and I like Pokemon Go also. My kids love Pokemon Go, and they're so excited, and the action figures and the video games and the anime and stuff like that. And I started thinking, I was like, what would be kind of interesting is to do like a film noir-ish, more adult type of Pokemon story. And then all of a sudden, as soon as I had the idea, the floodgates open. I was just nailing the idea. So I have a notebook about 3 or 4 pages full of ideas. And then eventually I said, I'm just going to start writing it. So I got a notebook, and I've written about 15 pages of it right now. And I haven't done it in a while, but I really like the idea. I've got the concept. It's, as I said, it's like a film noir-ish type of, more grown-up version of the Pokemon world where there's murder and death and stuff like that. I don't know what
Pokemon you don't see.
Exactly. I don't know if I should release it because the kids will be traumatized for life. And and I've got I'm even going to go a little crazy if I get this one done. I've got an idea for a second one where Pokemon and humans are interacting. How about a Pokemon and human having relations and having a child? That's my next idea. But you got to think about that, MJ. You think about that. If there's something that's never been seen before, and you're in a world where people like to capture these animals and use them for battles, wouldn't a human Pokemon hybrid be like the most sought after thing in the world? So
it probably would.
But yeah, as I said, it's a little bit out there. So
hey, out there is what people want.
We're not going to get there yet, but yeah. So real quick before we get into comics, I just need to go on a little rant right now. I've been doing I think I've been doing the solo shows for so long that I thought I was ranted out, but I'm not, because something happened yesterday that just pissed me off, and I have to get it off my chest because it's pissed me off. I don't know if you remember, MJ, back earlier this year, I got a note stuck on my door from a neighbor saying your house looks like shit, basically paraphrasing, and you need to fix it. Well, I don't want them to think that what we've done to our house since then is because of that note, because we were having it planned anyway. But that's still pissing me off because I had a bad day. So we've got a lot of stuff done on our house. The outside looks a lot better than it did, and the interior we've got a lot more stuff done. But yesterday, Noah's birthday was Friday, and we had some tickets to Hershey Park that we wanted to use before summer went out. So we figured Hershey Park's only an hour and a half away from us, and it's a great, if you've never been there, you need to get to Hershey Park because it is a fantastic amusement park. It is very well run, very clean. Security's everywhere, so I've never seen fights or anything bad break out, and it's just and the bathrooms are clean, and yes, everything is just, it's fantastic. And and because of that, everybody wants to go to Hershey Park. So yesterday we got up there, and oh my God, it was like Disney World. I mean, it took us a half hour to get into the park, even though we already had our tickets because the line was so big. And then every ride we wanted to go on, 10-15 minute long waits. I mean, that's what you expected. Food, 10-15 minute long waits to get food. I mean, you expected, but I mean, it was crazy insane because it was a gorgeous day, and it's the last, one of the last weekends of summer, stuff like that. Yeah, so why not? Going.
Yeah.
So because everybody was going, they have a lot of parking, but they also have a stadium and they have a arena. And I think they were having other events at those things. So they had to cut off some of the parking spots. So the parking was getting compressed into this one little area. Now, they usually have a lot of parking, but there are little, like at the very end, there's like a little walkway where people walk, and then there's the road, and then another walkway, and then more parking. There's like a little sliver of a spot. I mean, you're not supposed to park there. It's just because of the way the designs were done. But because they were anticipating so many people, the security people who were there telling you where to park, they told us to park on one of those little slots.
Okay.
And I was like, "Are you sure?" He's like, "Yeah, it's fine. Go ahead, do that." And there were other people doing it, so we weren't the only ones. I mean, I looked behind me, 5 or 6 cars behind me, and 5 or 6 cars in front of me were being told they can park on these little slivers. So we got to the park probably, I guess, about 10:30ish, and then got in, as I said, about 11. And we stayed the whole night. It closes at 10 o'clock, so we were leaving at 10 o'clock at night. So by the time we got to the van, we get in the van, and I sit down in the driver's seat, and I look out the window, and there's a piece of paper on my car. I was like, what is this about? I'm just like, I hope it's just someone saying, "Hey, buy our hot dogs," or something like that. I grab it. It's a handwritten note saying, "This is not a parking spot." I was told by the people who were telling us where to park, it's okay to park there. I am very aware it is not a parking spot. I told him this is not a parking spot. And he's like, "It's okay, you can park there."
Wait, was this note from just like some busybody? It wasn't from the park itself.
No, it wasn't. It was from a busybody. It was like a sheet of paper. They had other writing on the back, and then it was just in blue ink pen saying, "This is not a parking spot," and slid in there. No, because the park itself, they were aware. I mean, they knew what was going on because they were anticipating a huge amount of people, and the fact that the arena and the stadium had some stuff going on too. They needed to leave those spots open for those who were just going to those events. So I was like, really? I mean, what draws anonymous notes to me? I'm not trying to be, I was told to park here. Same thing is, it costs a lot of money to repair the outside of a house. There's nothing I can do about it until I either win the lottery or we're able to save enough money. I mean, we're talking $5,000-$6,000. And that's not something like, okay, yeah, we'll just pay this guy. Yeah, he'll do it. He'll pay for it. Yeah, we're just going to, be able to do that and not be able to afford our mortgage. Come on.
Yeah.
So I'm just,
you know what it is? People are starting to bring their social media into the real world. They're so used to posting anonymous messages and comments and leaving little nasty things to people online that suddenly they're like, "Oh, no one's looking. I can do the same thing with a note now in real life." So that's what they're doing.
It is. I'm just like, oh my, and it was not signed. That's the thing that drives me the most. Look, if you left a note on my house, at least say from number 13 or whatever, and then that way I can maybe talk to them and say, "Hey, look, I understand. I'll be very cordial about it. It's like, look, I understand. I know, but here's the problem. Yeah, here's the problem. This is what's going on. I'm working on it, But this was just, and just, I was already having it was a long day. I wasn't feeling well. The kids were getting kind of as I told you before. My daughter, who who is going to be turning 11 in December, is starting to show signs of the depressed teenage years. And I was like, you're only 10 right now. How can you be doing this right now? I'm hoping, as I told MJ before the show started, I'm hoping it's just that she's worried about school starting, because school starts the day after Labor Day, and it's 5th grade, and it's her last year at elementary school, and she's known nothing else except for, she wouldn't even remember preschool, but I mean, she's never known anything. And now she's heard about all the stuff that happens in middle school, and our middle school up here has been a little rough, but luckily it's going to get better. They hired a new principal who's a lot better, according to people who know him, than the principal they had previously, and he's going to start cleaning up the place a little bit. Or we'll send her to Catholic school or wherever she wants to go. That's the thing that Dawn and I are going to have to start looking at this year is, all right, what are we going to do? It's for 6th grade, because we have more options now than we did when I was growing up, and when you were growing up too. I mean,
yeah, it's like, this is where you're going, and that's it. You make it work.
So I just had to rant a little bit. It just drives me crazy. Now
that's okay, that's a good rant. So
yeah. At the same time, I'm going to be ranting a little later today about the Joker, and that's comic related. So and I'm sure MJ will have something to say about that. But yeah, we talk about comic book stuff on here. For those who haven't seen the show with MJ or I, we are comic book fans. We read the comics. We watch the movies. We watch the TV show. Well, you watch the TV shows. I haven't gotten around to watching very many of them. Like 4 episodes of Daredevil and like 2 of Jessica Jones. That's like my whole entire
that's your experience with
Netflix experience. With it right now. But with the Defenders coming out also, I want to get and MJ's my guy. MJ goes and he sees everything, and so when I don't see something, he can let us know about it. So I'm going to put the ball in your court now, MJ, since I've talked enough now. Tell me about Wonder Woman, Spider-Man, and the Defenders in any order you want.
All right, let's see. I'll start with Spider-Man. I'm trying to remember. It's been so long since it seems like I've seen it. Spider-Man was very good. You know how I had my issues with the previous Spider-Man. I actually, for whatever reason, like the Tobey Maguire series better than the Andrew Garfield one. He was just sullen, and it was just stupid and bad effects, and just, the humor that they tried missed, I think, in that one. So this one, with Tom Holland, they got the humor right. The writers knew what they were doing. You can tell a Marvel movie, versus someone who owns the property and doesn't quite know what to do with it. But in this one, they knew what they were doing. I was kind of not so excited to see Iron Man in it. I understand why they did that as a holdover from Civil War, because they're like, okay. And actually, there was a really cool scene in it that showed the lead up to Spider-Man joining the Civil War fight, all up to the point where Iron Man called for him to come out and he took Captain America's shield. That was pretty cool to see that. And I know that they had to put Tony Stark in it just to bring a couple of more people, to the theater. But I think that he definitely could have carried that movie on his own. I didn't feel like that we were watching a bunch of high school kids running around, because even though it was set in high school, it didn't feel like that. The Vulture, what's his name? Michael Keaton. Yeah, he did an amazing job. I thought that was going to be a silly, villain as well, but no. I mean, it looked great. The plot was there. The action scenes were, they were definitely up there for Marvel. I'm not going to say this is my favorite Marvel movie by far, but it was definitely an excellent, excellent movie. Fast-paced, great writing, great storyline. I don't want to ruin anything for anybody, but it had a couple of little surprises at the end of it. And, just overall, very, very good movie. Solid first movie. I don't know what their plans are to keep it with Marvel or how they're doing that. I would assume that they would, because it was such a hit. I think they were setting up the second one, so as long as it's making money and they're splitting it, I don't know why they wouldn't leave the property with Marvel. So I'm hoping that's what they're going to do.
I think from what I heard is he's in Infinity War, because we'll talk about this a little bit later. They showed some footage from Infinity War at a conference a few months back, and he's all over that. So I think he's going to be in the Infinity War movies. And then I think they said Marvel has at least another one that they're going to split with Sony, and then I guess they'll revisit it at another time.
Yeah. So. Well, hopefully by revisit, they mean we're just going to give you the rights back here. I keep saying, hey, if Disney can afford to buy Star Wars, they can certainly buy the X-Men and Spider-Man back. So I don't see why that just can't happen. So that was really good. It was a great movie. But honestly, I got to say, Wonder Woman was probably the best movie of the year in that genre. Definitely, as far as like just the entire genre, Marvel and DC goes, it is right up there with The Winter Soldier for me. I mean, that movie, I've seen it twice in the theater now. It deserves all the accolades it's getting. It deserves all the money it's making. You know, it was unapologetic. You know, she didn't apologize for being a woman. The action centered on her. The story centered on her. It centered on the island, the Amazons there. I don't know. It's very hard to describe how good that movie was. You know, the opening scenes, seeing her growing up was good. You know, I kept waiting for them to somehow tie it into Superman or something horrible like that. And it never happened. You know, it was just an absolutely amazing, amazing movie. You know, she's every bit the action that you would expect from the comic books if you follow that, from the Justice League Wonder Woman, from the old Justice League series, which I think is probably the best depiction of a DC superhero group ever. So that's kind of the Wonder Woman that you got. You know, she was strong, she was brave, feminist, and just, you know, so compassionate. There was a scene where Patty Jenkins, I think, talked about she had to fight to keep it in the movie because the executives or whoever in charge wanted it cut out. And it was basically a scene where she crosses no man's land during this horrific battle, which is like, you know, this however many miles wide trench of no man's land where if anybody who went into it, they were shot down by the Germans. So she crossed it just because, you know, she was seeing all these women come from the other side. They were talking about how the village on the other side of that no man's land had been cut off from food and medical help. There was no water. There was no anything. Everybody was dying over there. And the soldiers were all like, hey, that's not what we're here for, to save them. And she's like, well, then why are we here? So the scene where she just crosses that field, which leads to, of course, this huge battle on the other side, they had wanted to cut that out because they're like, nobody wants to see just Wonder Woman having to cross through a battlefield where there's no battle except for bullets coming at her. But it was probably the most amazing scene in the movie because it showed who she was. It showed why she was there, the compassion that she had, how she just thought, it doesn't matter how small the person is. If someone needs our help, that's what we're here for, to help them. You know, there's the bigger picture, yes, but we're also there to help even just the smallest child, the women who don't have food over there. She goes, nope, I'm going. You guys can stay here if you want to. I'll go over there by myself. And she did. And then, of course, that leads to everybody else, you know, Steve Trevor and his, you know, soldiers are like, oh, my God, you know, she's taking on the entire German army by herself. The least we can do is go help. So that everybody then follows after her. So it was just, you know, it was really good. You know, Ares was the villain in it, of course.
Yeah.
That was well done. I think it could have been better. But it never strayed from who she was. And that's what I liked about it. You know, she wasn't sensationalized. She wasn't, you know, they didn't look at her and say, oh, you know, let's show more thigh. Let's, you know, you've got to play up the fact that she's a beautiful woman. No, didn't really happen. She was like, you know, well respected by everyone that she met. Never let her principles down. She was single-minded, determined, focused, and she carried that movie. Gal Gadot is just, she is Wonder Woman now. So, you know, they've got a lot that they can do with that now.
We had some debate on the show when she was first cast, and I was, for one, didn't know if she was going to do a fantastic job, but from what you just said and from what I've been reading, she absolutely nails it. My friend Gary, he absolutely loves her in the role as well. Yeah. And he's up there, you know, with the pro Gal Gadot as well. And, you know, when I started seeing the trailers for Wonder Woman and seeing her bit parts in Superman vs. Batman as well, it got to me as like, you know what, she's actually pretty good. You know, I can't, and again, you know, I'll be free to admit it. I didn't think Michael Keaton would have been a good Batman, and I was wrong. And I didn't think Gal Gadot was going to be a good Wonder Woman, and I was wrong. So I think the next time I think someone's not going to be a good superhero, I'll be like, yeah, no, you know. I was right though. I was right about Ryan Reynolds and Green Lantern. Yes. He should have been the Flash. If he was the Flash, Wally West, snarky Flash, that would be perfect for him. I need a little bit more of a seasoned, gung ho, you know, male testosterone guy than Ryan Reynolds. Well, Ryan Reynolds is good at it, and he has a really good Deadpool. I mean, that's the character he was born to play. That's him. Right. I think they could have done a little bit better. In fact, I kind of like the idea of Steve Trevor.
Chris Pine.
Yeah, Chris Pine. He would probably be a really good Hal Jordan, just from what he does with Kirk in the Star Trek movies. Yeah. And that's sort of who Hal is. You know, it's kind of like a Captain Kirk. But you know, it's like that, and I think Chris Pine has the gleam in his eye, and just seeing him in the first few Star Trek movies, like, you know what, that's Hal Jordan. I think he would have been a really good Hal Jordan choice. We'll see what they decide to do. Rumor has it that we'll find out soon enough who might be Hal Jordan, or if they're going to just do Jon Stewart, which would be fine with me as well.
Either one, right.
And we'll talk about Justice League in a few minets, because there's a lot we had to cover. We didn't hit with that, but because of how well Wonder Woman did, I mean, right now they're saying she is now the highest grossing superhero origin movie of all time, which is good. And we called that. I mean, you and I, we called that back in May. We're like, you know what, she's gonna, if it looks like how it's supposed to go, she's gonna kick. They're gonna kick ass and make a ton of money, and they did. And because of that, they've made a ton of changes to Justice League movie, and I've already hot tracked a new Wonder Woman sequel with Patty Jenkins back again. So and they're starting to focus more on Wonder Woman now instead of maybe well, Batman's still there, but we'll talk about that in a few minutes. But Wonder Woman is starting to circumvent that a little bit, and it's sort of pushing Superman into the back, you know? So now you got Batman and Wonder Woman, and Superman's back here saying, I'm still here, but not really.
I'm really strong. Honestly, I think that they were very smart to capitalize on Wonder Woman, because I think what they're realizing is that it's not just a popular movie, but it's tapped into something that's been missing. I mean, she is a serious draw right now. So I think it was very smart of them to put her front and center for Justice League. You know, you can tell from like that last long trailer that they released, you know, they start off the scenes with her, and she's going to be a large part in it, as well she should be. And I'm starting, I don't know, I still don't know how I feel about the Justice League, but I think it's going to be a lot better. I know that there were, I don't know how much of it Josh Whedon redid. You know, there are conflicting reports. Some say, oh, he just reshot a few scenes, but they're like, he pretty much reshot the entire movie. So, you know, I think that that's going to be better. You know, I think that they realize that, you know what, having the brightness of Paradise Island and all of those scenes, you know, they're like, okay, we don't need everything to be set in the dark, in the rain, where you can't tell what's happening, and everybody's just like sourpuss the whole time. So I think that they're like, okay, there's something to this. And so you can tell there's definitely tonally, there's been a shift in the Justice League. And I think that that's very smart, that they should have done that.
Yeah, I've heard the same things you have. I've heard that he added some Wonder Woman scenes, obviously, after the success of the film, added a few more Wonder Woman scenes, has actually added some of the Paradise Island Amazons are going to be making the way, particularly Buttercup, Penn's old wife, who was in Princess Bride. God, my mind is terrible. Who's in
Robin Wright?
Yeah, Robin Wright. Yeah, she. They're going to add more of her character into
she was amazing
as well.
I would watch an entire movie with her in that character. I mean, that's how good her character was on that island. I mean, she was absolutely stunning.
I mean, who would have guessed? I mean, I'm like, she could have guessed because of what she does at House of Cards, but I mean, still, it was place.
Yeah, completely different. If she was like that on House of Cards, she'd be the first female president. I guarantee you. So.
One of my favorite memes was, it was like a shot of Wesley from Princess Bride talking to Buttercup, as like saying, "I'm going to defend you" or something like that, and the next shot is her as an Amazon saying, "Hold my beer" or something like that. And she's like, she's showing how badass she became. But yeah, so I heard that. I heard Joss is changing the ending because they're not exactly sure if they're going to do a sequel, because originally it was going to lead into a part 2, but and Zack Snyder's the one who handpicked Joss, so I think Zach and Joss had been conversations back and forth. So I think Joss probably ran this past Zach and said, "Hey, look, Zach, we know Justice League is probably going to be a big hit, and we know they're probably going to greenlight a sequel, but like I did with the Avengers, it might be easier just to have a one-and-done story." Just in case. So this setup for a sequel, you know, we don't necessarily have to, you know, end the film like that, because originally it was going to be Steppenwolf as the bad guy in Justice League, and that's going to lead to Darkseid taking on the Justice League in the second one, and they were going to film them concurrently and then release them one after the other, you know, a year in between, like they're doing with Avengers Infinity War. But they decided not to do that because of the lackluster box office, or maybe not box office, because they actually make some good money on their movies, but the lackluster critical acclaim. They're like, you know what? Let's just wait and see him back off a little bit. But I'm sure Joss is like, I know we're going to get a sequel, and you'll probably be back in time to do it if you want to. But I want you to handle the whole dark side thing, and I'll just set up, just a beginning and end for you. So we'll have a nice standalone film just in case for whatever reason they decide not to. And so we'll see. I mean, I would assume that because they're still aiming to come out in November, I don't think he reshot the whole movie. I think it was just a few. They wanted to maybe cut some stuff out, because one of the things I was going to tell you about is they cut Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor out. They cut another character out too. I'm not exactly sure who's supposed to be in it also, but they cut them out also. So I think he's trying to make it more lean and more focused on the Justice League themselves, and not necessarily try to set up a Marvel Cinematic Universe in the DC universe. I mean, they're trying to, but what you would do then is you would have the Justice League, and then it would be a post-credit sequence, would be Darkseid making an appearance. But then that would be like, well, it's just like the Avengers then. But I think Joss is like, nah, we're not going to do that. So
no, I think that they have a completely different tack that they're taking, which, I think that, and I don't want to talk bad about him, but I think that by them not having Zack Snyder as involved, I think they're going to do much better. I'm not saying that he hasn't done some great things. He's had his shots, but, listen to the critics, and then just like the way that people reacted to his movies. I mean, I think that not having him there, yeah, Joss Whedon, I like him. I think he writes a great female character. Granted, he's had his issues lately.
Yeah, exactly.
Going on, so I'm like, I don't know what's happening there, but I am looking forward to his Batgirl, unless something really horrible comes out about him. So
exactly, yeah, I think he'll be able to weather the storm. It seems more. I mean, they're not even really talking about all that much anymore, so it seems to be just sort of a little bump, a little hiccup. We'll see again once Justice League comes out and they start doing the press again for that, and they'll probably, because I'm wondering if they're going to do a Zack Snyder, directed by Zack Snyder and Joss Whedon, and I think that would be I mean, you have dual directors all the time now, so it wouldn't be that big of a stretch to say, okay, we'll do that instead. And to be fair, I mean, I've been one of the worst Zack Snyder critics, and I don't want to throw anything. I don't want all the shit that he's been through in his personal life. I don't want to deal with that. But the thing is, even though his movies were crap, they were enough to bring people in interest a little bit into and get a Batman to Superman movie coming out, and a new Superman take on things, and got Justice League greenlit also, and Aquaman greenlit, and The Flash greenlit, though we have issues with all of them. And heck, you could even say he helped get Wonder Woman greenlit also, because of the new, partially just because of the new interest in comic book movies, and the fact is, we should have a Wonder Woman movie. He might have been one of those guys that we should do a Wonder Woman movie. Let's get that on board with that. And I'll also be the first one to say also, I liked his Watchmen. I think Watchmen was a really hard to make into a movie, would have been really hard, and he actually knocked it out of the park. I think he did a really, really good job with that. And and even though I'm not a big fan of the story that it's based on, that Frank Miller did, his 300 was definitely different as well, and gave you that sort of stylistic type of it. It made things interesting. But yeah, after that, it gets a little, Batman, Superman, we talked about. Man of Steel, I have my issues with. Justice League, he's got some stuff in there. I think he was the one that came up with how they're going to do Aquaman underwater, so you got to give him credit for that. So that's pretty good. And then unfortunately, he also had the casting of Aquaman, but everyone the thing is, I'm the only one, I think, who hates it. I mean, maybe you do too, I don't know. But I know there's a lot of people out there that say it's going to be, it's fantastic. And then from what we've seen from the trailers, I to be honest, I'll be fair, I'll eat crow again. I laughed a little bit at some of the stuff he said and did. So
yeah, as long as they keep that personality, and it's not a pirate movie or some weird thing like that, he's not riding around and flying fish, I think it'll be fine. I think it's going to be, I'm not crazy about Jason Momoa playing that part, but you know what? Hey, as long as it's a good story, and I'll be there. I will give that a chance too. I'm more excited about that than I am The Flash.
Oh yes. Oh
that
my God.
I'm just really not. That I don't care if they don't ever find a director for that. So.
And now they're like, okay, this is how we're going to entice people. We're going to do Flashpoint. Oh yeah. It's like that's the new rumor now, is that they're going to be doing Flashpoint, and the reason why is they for whatever reason they're obsessed with getting Negan to come in and play the evil Batman, well, not evil, but the killer Batman from the Flashpoint world, Jeffrey Dean Morgan, because he was Bruce Wayne's dad in Batman vs Superman movie. So what they want to do is, and he said before, I'd love to play Batman in the Flashpoint universe, and so when they couldn't find the director for the Flash, they said, well, maybe we need to change the story. Maybe we'll get people then. And so let's do Flashpoint because it's an alternate reality and blah, blah, blah. And we can bring Wonder Woman in. And there's talk that Gal Gadot is going to come in because Wonder Woman is a big part. And so is Aquaman. So you get Jason Momoa in there too, but they can play two completely different characters. So now you've got those two playing evil versions of themselves in this world where you also get Jeffrey Dean Morgan playing a killer Batman. It can't fail. But no, I know.
And I'm thinking, will they go that far though? Because to me, if you're going to do it, then you'd better do it. If you bring Wonder Woman into it, she better kill Steve Trevor on camera in front of everybody. It better not be off camera. She better go there. You know, if you're going to bring Aquaman into it, is he and Wonder Woman going to get into it the way they did? You know, because you can't just, say, oh, we want to have a reason to throw them together. And then the people who know the story are going to be like, oh, this is half-assed. This is ridiculous. Plus, they're up against, they just did Flashpoint on the Flash on the CW network. So, I don't know. I don't know if that's the best story that they could have picked, but again, I understand their reasoning behind it. I'm not sure that they're going to be able to pull it off on live action big screen.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, they did do an okay animated version of it, and the thing is, and again, we've talked about it before. The reason why I don't like this Flash is because they're making him too much like Peter Parker. He's not Peter Parker. He's Barry Allen, who is actually a grown-up.
Yeah,
he's not a grown-up. He's an adult. He's in his mid-20s, and he works for the police. He's a scientist that works for the police. He's not some high school kid who's a freak of nature because he got these speed powers. Oh, my God. Right. He didn't get bit by a road runner where he's really fast, and it's just like Spider-Man.
He was bit by a radioactive road runner.
Exactly. That's why he runs really, really fast. Yeah. No, he wasn't a teenager. He didn't have super speed when he was a teenager or early or young. He looks like he's a teenager early, but the all shucks, the all shucks, golly gee, amazed at you're Batman. Oh my God, no. That's not Barry Allen. I just, yes. And then, of course, now they're talking about, all right, no, The Rock has been talking forever about playing the character on Shazam. Black Adam. And now they're saying, well, we have a Shazam movie, but we're not going to have Black Adam in it.
Then why?
We want to get Black Adam his own movie. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
But he is a part of Shazam. You need to have him in there. Why don't you introduce him in Shazam? He doesn't have to be the main star. Plus, you've got The Rock. He's in a pretty big spot right now.
They're like, you know what? The Rock doesn't play second fiddle anymore. And so maybe they're thinking, all right, it wouldn't be right to just bring him in and bring his crowd in because he will draw a crowd. People will show up to see that. For him to just be something that's in a movie for 10, 15 minutes, second fiddle to someone else, everybody's like, okay, twiddling their thumbs, waiting for Black Adam to show up. He shows up for 10 minutes and it's over. So that could make the movie worse than, not putting him in there at all.
Actually, that makes a lot of sense, actually. Yeah, just I don't know. It's just, yeah, and I know everybody out there, it seems like we're always dumping on DC, but they deserve it.
Well, you know what it is? It's their movie universe. They don't have a Kevin Feige or whatever his name is to have an overall vision to drive everything to. And honestly, I'll tell you, I really think that the DC cinematic universe is going to be the downfall of the superhero genre movies. It is going to cause that genre to just crash and burn because they have no clue what they're doing when it comes to trying to create a cohesive universe. They should just say, you know what, we're just going to make standalone movies and we're not going to try and tie anything together because it's going to be just ridiculous by the time they finish with this genre.
Exactly. And that would be fine. I mean, at the same time, the one thing that makes Marvel so unique also is because they're not just focusing on their big guys. They're doing Ant-Man movies and Guardians of the Galaxy, who were not big when they were first announced. I mean, we had the discussion before when the movie first came out. We're like, I just don't know how much it's going to make because, you know, who's ever heard of the Guardians of the Galaxy? But then we turn around, they make $94 million in their first film. It's like, okay, now we're now we're cooking with gas. Whereas the DC universe, they have a ton of really interesting characters that you could just, like, I would love. And now the problem is now there's new talk about Justice League Dark is now having more issues with writing. So like that, Justice League Dark is such a great idea for a film. You get a bunch of supernatural superheroes together, and they're all visually pleasing. Deadman and Dr. Fate and Zatanna and Constantine, who's not visually stunning, but he's a character, you know, and the Spectre, you know, and Swamp Thing and Black Orchid. You've got a whole world of horror magic people, and it worked well with Doctor Strange. So you could just and you don't. And another thing is DC loves their multiverses. Why not just make a bunch of different, as you said, standalone movies, you know, that don't necessarily have to be in the same universe, or if you want to maybe tie a few together, go ahead. I mean, you don't have to shoehorn it in, make it, you know, interesting. Like, if you want to do a Green Arrow, Green Lantern, hard traveling heroes movie, I think that would be a really good movie because it's something that's really never been done before, and they're not fighting colorful bad guys, they're fighting social injustice. And now of all times would be the absolute perfect time to release a hard traveling heroes movie with Green Arrow and Green Lantern, because you've got Green Arrow, who's like the ultimate liberal, and Green Lantern is sort of like stuck up kind of conservative. He's not as bad as a conservative, but he's got that sort of Republican mentality to it. And you get these two people who are banging heads constantly against each other, and they're both wrong, you know? Green Arrow has this one point where we need to do this, we need to do that. It's like, no, you need to settle down. Green Lantern's a little bit right there. And then there's things where Green Lantern's saying stuff, and you're like, no, you're wrong too. I think that would be a great idea.
No, I think so too. I think that, you know, I don't know. I just have so many issues with DC right now, you know. But the sad thing is, it's like they have great comic books, they have great source material, they have great characters other than Batman and Superman. If they would just branch out, because I'm going to tell you right now, I don't know if Affleck is still doing this Batman movie. I don't know what's going on with that, but I can guarantee you, and I will go on record as saying this: Joss Whedon's Batgirl will make double whatever that Batman movie would make. I can guarantee right now it will be up there with The Dark Knight. You watch and see if it's not.
Oh, I agree with that, and we'll get a little bit of that too, because, you know, why don't we get to it now, and then we can talk about the Defenders a little bit, because this week alone has been one of the most strangest weeks in the DC cinematic universe. And I don't know if you've been following what's been going on. First, you know, and I mean, maybe even started even in the last week. First up, we'll talk about Batman, okay, and then we'll talk about the Joker. Batman. Casey Affleck, Ben's brother, comes out on Twitter saying, Ben's not doing Batman anymore. And everybody freaks the heck out. And then all of a sudden, DC's like, no, he's still doing Batman. And then there's another report says, oh yeah, the Batman movie that Ben Affleck's no longer directing it or writing it. There's a new guy who did the Planet of the Apes movies.
Right.
There's a report. It didn't come from the directors. It came from somebody on set, or someone said, oh yeah, the Batman movie that this guy Matt Reeves is doing is not going to be part of the DC cinematic universe.
Right. Yes.
Okay. And then all of a sudden Matt Reeves comes and says, whoa. Ben Affleck's my Batman. It's going to be part of the DC extended universe. Where the hell are you getting these? And this all happened within a span of like 3 or 4 days. It was like story after story. It's like, Ben Affleck has Batman. No, wait, he's back in. No, but the Batman movie's not going to be about in the DC universe, and it's not going to have Ben Affleck. Yes, it is.
Nobody was just making that stuff up out of the blue. It was coming from somewhere, because it was too, you know. And Casey Affleck, I mean, yeah, he's crazy. He was probably drunk, so he probably drunk tweeted it, and it was probably true what he said.
And then Ben's like, no, I haven't decided yet, Casey. Why are you saying that?
Yeah. Now you're going to make me have to do it.
And then on top of that, we've got the Joker stuff, and this is the other rant I was going to go on to, but we may as well, since we're talking about it, we may as well just follow the thread of it. First up, let's talk about the DC Cinematic Universe Joker. So again, you know, there was announced a while back that they were going to do the Gotham Girls movie with Harley Quinn, Poison Ivy, Catwoman, which I think would actually be a pretty good movie. I mean, it's unique. You're using different characters. You're in the Batman universe. You don't necessarily need to have Batman or the Joker in it. And you have these characters. And so they were starting to talk about that, and then all of a sudden they're like, "Nah, that's been scrapped. We're going to do a Joker and Harley movie." I was like, "Why are you going to do a Joker Harley movie? Because it's a ultimate romantic movie?" No, it isn't. We've talked about this. You and I have talked about this, MJ. It is an abusive relationship. It is not romantic at all. And I don't want to see a movie with Jared Leto and Harley Quinn, getting it on and then fighting. I mean, unless you're going to show the abuse, it's not a love story. It is an abusive, horrible relationship, and everybody in the comic world knows this. And yet, everyone out there is misreading everything. It's like, I want to love just like Joker and Harley. No, you don't.
No, you don't. Oh, you really don't want that at all. I mean, the Suicide Squad, yeah, they were not in it together as much as people thought, but they tried to make it look like this is like the new age Romeo and Juliet. Well, no, it isn't at all, other than the fact that one of them's probably, or both of them will end up dead at the other one's hands at some point. It's just, it's a horrible, horrible, degrading relationship. And, I just don't see why they want to do that. And then they're like, oh, it's going to be a Joker origin movie.
That's a different. That's that Scorsese's going to do. Yes, he's going to have a completely different Joker. Scorsese's producing it, and they've just started. It's going to be a hard-boiled 1980s like Joker Year One type of thing. And I was like,
I don't want to see that either.
I don't want to see that either. And then talking about what we did with Batman. Then all of a sudden they're like, oh, no, we're actually going to do it's actually Gotham City Sirens. We're actually going to do the Gotham City Sirens movie, but we're also going to do the Joker Harley movies. Like, make up your freaking mind, because you just said it's deader than dead, and now you're like saying, no, we're going to do it. And in my opinion, and you know exactly where I'm going to go with this, the Gotham City Sirens movie is going to make more money than the Joker Harley movie.
Yep, it will. Yeah, and they aren't quite sure how to deal with that. They probably know that's going to happen, but they don't know how. Like, oh, do we want that to happen? Do we not want it to happen? I don't understand what goes through their minds. Who is headlining this? Who is their showrunner for this thing? Because it just sounds like it's a mess to me.
It does. And then he's going to be in Suicide Squad 2 now, Jared Leto with the Joker. It's like, okay, that's a little too much Joker, okay? And a little too much Jared Leto Joker, by the way.
I did not like his Joker. I'm going to tell you right now, that stupid laugh, the whole look, I don't know. It just was horrible. And I don't want to see his origin. As far as I'm concerned, Jack Nicholson fell into the thing of paint with Michael Keaton, and that was the Joker. So I don't need to see anything else after that.
Exactly. And then, to be fair, Nolan did a good job of not revealing the origin of his Joker. So, you don't have to do that. We don't need to see that. And it's...
And of all the characters that they could find to try and push on people, why him? I don't know. It's overkill.
Yeah, as I said, he's not one of my favorite characters. I mean, I've talked about it many times. I think he's an what's the word I'm thinking of? Overrated figure. We talked about The Killing Joke. While it's pretty looking, the art is very pretty looking, it is a terrible story. It is a horrible story. And Scott Snyder, who started off his run on Batman with the gem, with the owls and the stuff like that, all of a sudden he devolved into, let's make a Joker into every story. So they did one Joker story, then they did like a Year One story that didn't have the Joker in it, and then they said, let's bring the Joker back again. Oh, and let's finish it up again with another Joker. And then in Scott Snyder's Metal, which is the big DC, the Batman crossovers going on until February, the Joker's going to play a big part of that. It's like, okay. And then I'll talk a little bit later. I mean, the Joker, it's never going to end. Actually, let me talk about it now. In the comics, it's the same thing, MJ. They are announcing a Batman Joker miniseries by Mark Silvestri, which will look pretty, but again, it's Batman Joker. Why do we need to see that? Then there's going to be a Batman Elseworld story by Sean Taylor or something like that, who is going to flip the thing and make the Joker be the hero and Batman be the villain. It's an Elseworld story, obviously. And then this one I'm okay with because the writing team understands the characters. Paul Dini, who created Harley Quinn, and Jimmy Palmiotti, who's writing the hell out of the Harley Quinn series. He's doing a fantastic job. They understand the character. They've already detailed the whole horrible, abusive relationship. And so they're doing a series called Joker Loves Harley. which is they've done some backups, and it's going to be done in the style of like the animated Batman the Animated Series. And it's Paul Dini though and Jimmy Palmiotti. They know the characters, so even though it says Joker loves Harley, it's going to be not exactly what people are thinking it's going to be. So that one I might be okay with because I like the creative team behind it. And look, I like Mark Silvestri, but doing a Batman Joker, why don't you just go on and do Batman? And not do the Joker, or do a Robin series or something like that. Just get you away from the Joker, and the Joker needs to retire for a little bit because that's every writer who takes on Batman wants to do a Joker story. Now, again, I'll be fair. Tom King is killing it on Batman. I love his Batman. I don't know if you've been reading his Batman, but his Batman is fantastic, and he's in the middle of his Joker story right now. But what makes it more interesting is he's tying the Riddler to it also. It's like a 6-part series, or actually it's going to be closer, I think 9 parts, called The War of Jokes and Riddles, where the Joker declares war on the Riddler. And Batman is stuck in the middle. It's actually Tom King. He's one of the guys I'll give a break to. Just Scott Snyder just seems to have a Jones for the Joker. Scott Snyder's just using the Joker because this is the Joker story he wanted to tell, but it has the same focus on the Riddler as it does the Joker, and the Joker is the cold, devious, psychotic. The theory behind it is the Joker is going through like a midlife crisis. He's not finding anything funny, and he's trying hard. Yeah, he's trying hard, but he can't do it. And the Riddler is trying to, antagonize him because, hey, I find everything funny, because the Riddler's being a douche as he is. So, so the Joker's like, you know what? I'm really good at killing people. So I'll kill them in the fact that they're not making me laugh. So it's actually better than it sounds, MJ. You got to trust me on this. Tom King's really doing a number on Batman. He's doing fantastic. But as I said, just Joker madness is just, I don't like Joker madness. I think, I think he's overrated and it needs to stop.
And I just can't see him carrying an entire movie because, you can't really root for him. I mean, I can't root for him. And just seeing he and Harley Quinn, I'm like, no. I didn't like Suicide Squad for those reasons. And I don't think that, cutting them out, giving them their own movie, no. Because they're going to try and give them some redeeming qualities, and they don't have any redeeming qualities. They're horrible, wretched people who, feed off of each other. So I just don't see how they're going to make this appealing in any way, shape, or form.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely
right.
If
they do something stupid like, at the end of it, the Joker has like some redeeming moment where he saves a bunch of people. Well, that would never happen. So, just wouldn't happen.
You're right. It wouldn't because he's insane. Yeah. Look, Joker's good at very small doses.
Very small.
And you gotta get a good writer behind him and who can do some good Joker things. Alan Moore was just it's an awful, terrible story with the Killing Joke. Frank Miller's was okay, but it wasn't great. But there have been some good Joker stories. I think Archie Goodwin was a good Joker writer, and he didn't overuse it. Paul Dini was a good Joker. He did one of my favorite Detective Comics series. When Paul Dini was the writer of Detective Comics, he decided to forego the multiple story arcs. So he did one and dones for like about 2 years. So like 24 issues of Detective. They're all one and dones. They all have different stories because he had lots of different stories he wanted to tell. And one of them is one of my favorite, believe it or not, there are some out there, one of my favorite Joker stories where Joker kidnaps Tim Drake Robin and takes them on a drive through the city right around the holidays. And because the Joker always has this weird obsession with Robin. I mean, he's killed a bunch and all this stuff. So he has this, but the reason why I really, really liked it was because Batman was not in the book at all, even though it is Detective. It was Tim Drake, who I still think they've given him terrible stuff since the New 52. I hate how this Tim Drake is, but my Tim Drake before the New 52 was the epitome of him was in this story where, most times you're tied up, bound in a car careening 70 miles an hour through downtown Gotham City rush hour during the holidays, and the Joker's cackling about what he's going to do to you and stuff like that. And the Joker, meanwhile, is like running over people and hitting stuff like that. And there's nothing you can do to save him and try to get out. He keeps his wits about him and eventually is able to turn the tables on the Joker and beat him. So I guess it was more of a Tim Drake story, but the Joker being in that story was a good thing, because when Tim Drake Robin was introduced, they did 3 miniseries with him, and the Joker was the villain of the second one, and it was actually one of the better stories. You know, it was a small story, 6-issue miniseries. The Joker took on the new Rob because he had just killed the previous one, and the fact that Tim Drake was able to stop him and beat him without the help of Batman is what really makes it. So I guess it's more of a Tim Drake story, but it's one of my favorite Joker stories is that one, and it's just a small dose, you know.
Yeah. But there are some good Joker stories out there. You know, I just don't see him headlining. You know, just I don't see that. So I don't know why they think it's going to be any different on the big screen. I could be wrong. It could make $1 billion, but I don't think so. So
I hope not.
I hope not. Exactly. I will be like, that's the beginning of the end right there. So.
Unfortunately, at the same time, Marvel, well, not really Marvel because they don't own the rights to it, but I guess it's Sony also. They're just like, hey, you know, we should do a Venom movie.
Oh yes,
and let's cast Tom Hardy. Yeah, let's do that too. And so now we have another big guy who's going to be headlining the movie.
Spider-Man. Yeah, it's just Venom. Nothing to do with Spider-Man. No, you know, I don't. Yeah.
And maybe Carnage. I also. Oh God.
I would have a little bit more faith in Marvel to do something like that than DC, because the way I see it, I'm like, DC needs to straighten out their main characters, their main universe, get everything flowing before they venture off the beaten path. Learn how to tell a good story, you know, before they try venturing into these murkier waters with their lesser known characters, because they don't know how to handle them. You don't know how to handle the big guns that you've got, let alone like these creepy little guys that, you know, people are so familiar with because they've been around since they were children, and then suddenly they're on the big screen and they're nothing like you imagine that they would be. So I don't know, there's just a disconnect there.
I agree with that. And then, but I will give Sony credit also. They've got Black Cat Silver Sable movie, which might be interesting. So you got 2 female leads, and that could be an interesting one. There's not much more stories about that, but that was interesting too. So we sort of got off the path. Tell me about the Defenders. Did you see that?
I did. I binged all of that in one weekend, of course. So that was good. It was. Of course, it was great to see Jessica Jones back again, and Daredevil. To me, that is still the Netflix. Those are the 2 anchors of the Netflix Marvel universe: Jessica Jones and Daredevil. Luke Cage was very interesting in it, and I don't have problems with Iron Fist, not the way that everyone else does. You know, I grew up reading Iron Fist, so I'm like, you know, they didn't really explain why he is the way he is. I'm like, look, this kid grew up basically being treated like a dog by all of these people, and he was beaten and horrible stuff was done to him. Yes, he was trained, but he was an outsider, so they didn't care for him. Suddenly he becomes the Iron Fist, and they're like, oh, now it's your job to protect us from now till eternity. And he's like, the hell? So, you know, they don't really go into how he became how he is. So basically you're stuck with like this rich guy who whines all the time. So I don't know, I can kind of understand that. And honestly, I don't think that Finn Jones can act. So he's got like one facial expression, and that's his angry face, his concerned face, his sad face. It's all the same expression. And so, you know, it's kind of hard to watch him. But what made it good, or made him good, was the fact that he got to interact with the other Defenders. The fact that, you know, Daredevil didn't take shit from him. Jessica Jones was basically smacking him around constantly, or threatening to smack him around if he didn't, you know, stop his crap. And Luke Cage, you started to see their friendship taking shape. So that was actually good, because it was genuine, the way that they had them interacting with one another. And you could tell that they just clicked right away, which is how it should have been.
Yeah.
It introduced the Daughters of the Dragon, you know, so you've got Misty Knight there, Colleen, they finally get together. Everything is great. I think that the supporting characters, you know, the Karen Page, Misty, Colleen, those guys could have had a bigger part. They were pretty much there just to say how great their hero was, you know. They just kind of talked about, oh, we would be nothing without the Devil of Hell's Kitchen. Oh, my gosh, you don't know how bad we would be if Jessica Jones weren't here. That's all that they were really there for, when I'm like, they could have been so much more. that would have been really interesting. And I understand it was only 8 episodes, so they had to cut out a lot and just go right for the action. The Hand was the villain again, but at the same time, it was still confusing. So I'm like, I know the Hand. I'm like, I still don't know what the Black Sky is or why Elektra had to be the Black Sky, and I'm really not sure what they were after in New York. And some of the decisions they made, I'm like, I am pretty sure that no hero would agree to collapse a building, no matter what was underneath it that they were trying to bury. I'm like, really? You're just trying to bury a hole, so you're going to bring down an entire skyscraper? That's your plan? And they all agree to it? I'm like, oh, okay, well.
They have flaws, MJ.
They have some serious flaws. They're like, even when one of them looks at the rest and been like, we're going to commit domestic terrorism on you guys, and they're like, yeah, and they're like, oh, okay. So it's like, so I just kind of gloss over stuff like that. There were some plot holes that you could have driven like, an army of tanks through, but it was fun. The action was there, the interactions were there. It was dark, but it wasn't too dark. It set up the next series of their individual shows very nicely, I think. I'm hoping that Misty and Colleen get a spinoff together. I think we've got The Punisher coming next. It set up season 3 of Daredevil perfectly. If they go with the Born Again arc, which I'm sure they will based on how this ends, that's going to be amazing. So I don't know. I think it was fun. I certainly could not, take my eyes away from it. I watched the entire thing almost in one sitting because it really does move along very fast. So they knew what they were doing. They did what they were supposed to do with it.
Yeah. 8 episodes is a lot easier to sift through than 13, and maybe that might be something they might start working on more often, because Stranger Things is only about 8 to 10 episodes, and that that moved on at a pretty good pace. And then a lot of people have been saying, when you try to stretch to 13, you get a lot of some filler episodes, stuff like that. Maybe slice and dice it a little bit down a little bit. So we'll see. I think one person that might need 13 is The Punisher, which is the next one coming up. I don't know if you saw the teaser trailer for it. That looks like they've got the atmosphere down for that. A really dark, really brutal, and that's what you need. It's got to be dark. It's got to be brutal. You can't have really any light. The Punisher can't be cracking jokes and doing so. That's not what he does.
He's cracking bones, not jokes. I think that one is going to be, like you said, dark and brutal, and it should be. He was great in Daredevil season 2. He was a standout. So I think that that's going to be a really good one. I don't think there was nothing that was glaringly horrible about the Defenders. I love Sigourney Weaver's character. She does a great job. He had some corny lines a couple of times, but you know what? It's Sigourney Weaver. She did a great job with it. I thought it was really, really good. And so I would definitely, I don't know if they're going to do another season of Defenders. I think somebody said that maybe it was a one and done, just to set up the rest of the shows, but I would watch it if they did another one.
Right.
Jessica Jones and Luke Cage, you can see that they belong together. Luke and Danny are going to be a great team. Daredevil, of course, he's like, I don't want anything to do with any of y'all. Once we kill all these people, I'm done with a lot of you. So, he's Daredevil, and it's just that's how it should have been.
Yeah, I think Jessica Jones is next after The Punisher, because they're filming right now her new series. I don't know when Daredevil's coming, because I don't think they've started even filming that yet. Right. And I haven't heard about Luke Cage or Iron Fist 2, so we'll wait and see. We might hear. It's only end of August, so we might start hearing stuff a little bit further in the fall. But right now, the one that's probably going to be next after The Punisher is going to be Jessica Jones, because they're in the middle of that, filming that right now. So I would assume she'd be the next one to come out, probably in March, I guess, is when they usually do those. So that'd be good. And maybe they're also at the same time they're secretly filming some of these new ones that they've been discussing, possibilities that might be rolling in down the line. So we'll see. But speaking of Netflix, real quick, a couple things. I don't know if you saw this, because this seems to be the newest trend, because it's happened twice now. Mark Millar, writer who's written a bunch of stuff. He has his own little Millar world that includes Kick-Ass and stuff like that. Well, apparently he's made a deal. I think it was with Netflix. I'm not sure, one of the streaming services.
Netflix.
He's going to be doing shows based on his comics, which, to be fair, is exactly what Mark Millar does. When he writes his books, he's writing them as if they're going to be movies or TV shows. It's the way he always does it. And not that there's anything wrong with that, because Reborn was fantastic. It was the newest one he just did, which detailed what actually happens after you die in his world. after you die, you actually get sucked into like a medieval fantasy, Lord of the Rings type of thing, and you're in a younger body or whatever, and it's split off into two groups of bad and good, and you are constantly fighting. And then if you die there, I think that's your eternal rest after that. I think they sort of gleamed over that a little bit, okay. But it was interesting. But it was, to me, Millar has had two phases where he was like with his kick-asses and some of his other books were very, very brutal to begin with. And then he seems to be, the second half of his career has been sort of laid back, because Huck has been one of those where it's like a like Lenny from Mice and Men, but he was a superhero, kind of a not all there, but very sweet, or almost, he's even more like Bizarro Superman. If you see him in the comic, where he's very kind and gentle, but he's not all there. This is what Huck was. So there was that. And then there was the one where I forget what it was called, where he did a version of like the Adam Strange, Buck Rogers type of thing, where there was a Earthman who was sent to a foreign planet to help take it to save it from bad guys, and then he becomes a huge hero, and then he goes back to Earth where he ages, and then they come back because of his history, and they talk about him all the time on this other planet. They come back to get him because the planet's in danger again, but now he's like a 70-year-old man trying to relive his glory days, but he decides, I'll go with you, and he ends up, getting back into the role of superhero again, that was a very pleasantly surprising one as well. So we're going to start seeing more of those, I think, and there's some, so we'll start seeing those Netflix ones. And then Robert Kirkman says, "Hold my beer." I think it's Amazon Streaming then bought the rights to his Skybound Productions, which does not just his stuff, but they also do Manifest Destiny and Monstrous, I think, is another one, and a few other ones as well. And so they're going to make that Amazon or Hulu or whatever. They're going to have their own set of superhero TV shows. So based on Robert Kirkman, I think Invincible is going to be the big one that they're going to be doing, and which is actually Invincible. I started reading Invincible when it first came out, and I sort of lost interest in it when I lost interest in comics for about 9 months. I just stopped collecting it, and I just haven't gotten back into it. So I don't know what's going on with it, but it was an entertaining series, and I liked it. But I might check out the series if they do a series of Invincible. It's actually not bad. So, so they're going to be doing those. So it just leads me to believe that, are the Netflix shows now getting a little stale? Because they led up to the Defenders, and now what are you going to do?
What do they do after that? Yeah, I think that they're going to bank a lot on Jessica Jones and Daredevil energizing their series, and I think that if it's done right, it will. Jessica Jones is just, she's Jessica Jones. That's an amazing story right there. If season 2 can live up to what season 1 was, they're going to be fine. Daredevil, I think that they will not shy away from the brutality and what happens in his Born Again series. I don't think they'll shy at all from that. So that is just going to, be reinvigorate them as well. Iron Fist, they got some work to do with that. They really, really do. And then the other thing is, too, I'm like, he's supposed to be like, one of the top tier best martial arts fighters in all of Marvel, but he's just not. I'm like, what kind of punch was that you just threw? It's like, I'm like, you need a new stunt choreographer for him. You need a new stunt double for him. I said, and just, I don't know, put a mask on him or something, because he just can't make any type of expressions at all. And,
Yeah, the rumors are the rumors are he's getting the green and yellow costume in the new season, and they're getting new showrunners. So hopefully that'll help out a little bit. So
it still has potential. So I don't think that their shows are getting stale yet. I think the Punisher is going to do a lot for them. I just don't want them to think that they have to keep everything dark. The street level heroes, I say stick with that. That's what works, but it doesn't have to be so dark and quite so brutal. This is, I don't know. I guess they do live in a very brutal world, so Yeah.
But you know what? You got to have some humor in there, or it's just, it doesn't have to be as crazy overt as it is in the other Marvel movies, but just a little, even if it's just, dry, like, Jessica Jones has got this dry sense of humor type of thing. So you bring that out a little bit, and maybe get, Luke Cage, a little bit more loosey-goosey also. He's very, he's had a hard life. I understand that, but the more you realize the good you're doing, and, you're seeing changes. Maybe you need to lose, and maybe eventually if they get him back together with Jessica Jones, maybe that'll help out a little bit as well. Nothing against Nurse Chapel, but but still,
he belongs with Jessica Jones. That's
exactly. Yeah,
you could definitely see in the Defenders the chemistry when they met again for the first time after a while. It's just it picked right back up where it was. So it's coming.
Hopefully, that's good. You mentioned stunt people. We have to mention the sad part where in 2 comic book related shows, one The Walking Dead and in Deadpool 2, stunt people have died doing stunts for them, and it's just coincidental probably, but it's just goes to show you that being a stunt person is not it's one of the hardest jobs in the industry, and it's so in your face now because there hasn't been really many stunt people deaths lately, and 2, it's in 2 fairly high-profile events. I mean, and then of course, Tom Cruise hurt himself doing a stunt also for the new Mission Impossible movie, but that was him, and so that was a big story also.
I'm sure he probably just got up out of the chair wrong, because that man is old and he has no business still trying to flip around the way that he does. So, I didn't know about the one in Deadpool, though. I knew about the one from The Walking Dead, but I didn't know that one passed away in Deadpool, though.
It was the female, I think, died in a motorcycle accident sequence they were doing. I guess maybe being Domino's double or another female character's double. But yeah, she died in a motorcycle accident, I think, on the set. So that's I don't know if they shut down. They shut down production for a little bit on Deadpool 2, but not much. Not as much as they did for Walking Dead, because Walking Dead is one of those things where it's a longer shooting schedule because of the amount of episodes they're doing, and it's more, I guess, intense stuff like that, and it's television stuff like that. So, but they're back on target too, and they're going to. I think they're going to have some sort of tribute to the stunt person on the new episode of Walking Dead when it comes out in October. So, speaking of other shows, we're going to get into a little bit again, overt racism. We talked a little bit about it. Social things being brought to the forefront. I don't know if you heard they cast Starfire in the new Teen Titans show that TNT is doing.
Yes, I did hear it, but I haven't seen who she is. Or they did the casting.
The actress name is Anna Diop. I've never heard of her, but she's a black actress. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, all the racists are out saying, "Well, Starfire's never been black." No, she's orange.
She's gold.
She's gold orange, dude. Yeah, right. And
good luck finding somebody who.
And here's the thing, Anna Diop, from what I've seen, she's like a statuesque model, which is what you need for Starfire. Come on,
she's
people.
Very statuesque. And she's tall and just, very bosomy. So,
exactly. So, I mean, it's just this, just the world outside, the overt race. It just drives me abs. And look, it sounds funny coming from me because, hey, look at me, I'm Mr. White Privilege. I'm a white male, where I can't even understand what you have to go through, MJ, and other people as well. I mean, it's got to be, and I don't want people to think I'm not. I don't understand, but it still drives me. I don't have to understand, but it still drives me crazy that stuff like that still happens, and what's been happening in the world. It drives me absolutely bonkers that there's even someone complaining that Starfire has never been black. She's an alien. She can be any color she wants, dude. Seriously, she can be Asian, for God's sakes. I don't care, as long as she fits the character. She's bosomy, which is very important, and tall, fairly tall, and athletic. That's all that matters. It can be white, black, Asian, Australian, I don't care, Eskimo if you want, sure, it's fine.
She's an alien with green eyes.
There you go. Contact lenses.
There you go.
Mm-hmm. If she doesn't have green eyes, you're done. Yeah. We'll see how that. I mean, that's just the start. We'll see how that is, because you're going to start seeing more news. Like there's a bunch of other side shows that are coming on, like the ABC Family, the new station has like the Cloak and Dagger and the Runaways is coming up, and then you've got Inhumans coming up on ABC along with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and they're in outer space now. So
I feel sorry for the Inhumans. I'm going to tell you right now. They don't know what they've bitten off with that show. So I mean, I will watch the first episode just because I want to see. Well, the first episode's not really going to count because that was done with IMAX. That's going to have a bigger budget. But the next couple of episodes after that, yeah. I want to see Lockjaw because I'm excited to see Lockjaw. But that wig, if any show can be killed by a wig, it'll be the first time in history. This will be it.
Maybe we'll get lucky, and maybe they'll use computer generated stuff to. I mean, you have the wig, but then you give her some computer generated stuff to make it even better.
The first time I saw it in the trailer and it started to move, I'm like, I could almost see the fish line and somebody doing this to pull it up like that because I'm like, oh my god, they've just attached wires to it and they're pulling her hair up with twine. It's like.
So we'll see. Oh, geez. So let's see. Covered that. Oh yeah, covered that. I'm just checking out. I actually have a bunch of notes today. We covered a bunch of them. Jumped all over the place. Okay. Let's get a little bit away. No, I want to talk about one thing real quick. Have you ever read Superman's Secret Identity by Kurt Busiek? It's no. It was a 4-issue. This is one. It's another one that I'm going to recommend. It was a 4-issue miniseries that Kurt Busiek, who's probably one of my favorite writers, basically what he did was he took the mythos of Superman and changed them up a little bit. Where there was a guy by the name of Clark Kent who always got joked, "Oh, you're Clark Kent, you're going to become Superman," blah blah blah. And then when he got older, everybody was trying to hook him up with women named Lois. And he actually meets a woman named Lois who he has an undeniable attraction to, and she with him, and they end up getting married and having kids and having a long life together. But that's just my part. But basically what happens is when he was like a teenager, maybe early 20s, more like his early 20s, right around the time we started, where he met the love of his life, Lois. He is out on like camping trip or something, and he sees like a meteor or something crash, and then he wakes up. He's got Superman's powers. He can fly. I don't think he has heat vision, or frost vision, but he can fly. And he's got super strength, but that's about it. And instead, in Kurt Busiek fashion, because he's the guy who can write the normal people and extraordinary situation things better than anybody else, he doesn't follow the thing where the guy decides he wants to be a superhero. He does little things in secret, but nothing like taking down governments like that. He like helps old people or cats and trees or stuff like that. But the government finds out about it, and they want him for a weapon. So they have a FBI guy who becomes like his Philip Gerard, who follows him around and tries to catch him. But the two of them sort of create a relationship. They sort of have a relationship where after the initial, where the government kidnaps him, they run tests on him, and then he freaks out and escapes and then goes into hiding for the longest time with Lois, letting her know what's going on. He is still able to keep in contact with this FBI guy who didn't like what the government was doing to him. So eventually they work their issues out, and this FBI guy, while he was, as they're getting older, he hands them little things like, here's something you might want to look into, in secret. It's a secret mission. We're not going to, you can do it. We're not going to bother you. And they'll keep the heat off of him, and they'll give him whatever he needs, stuff like that. And he just wants to be left alone. And so he and his wife end up having kids, and the kids have the powers too. So he's got to keep them quiet as well. And then eventually he retires, and his daughter, who has more control over her powers, takes over for him with this liaison with the FBI agent. And then the final issue has the FBI agent retiring and trying to figure out what they're going to do after that. But it is a brilliantly written, fantastically emotional story that you never would expect. The premise itself makes no sense, but Kurt Busiek just writes the shit out of it. So it's always been one of my favorite Superman stories. So imagine my surprise when I'm leafing through my my internet the other day, and they announce a Batman version written by Kurt Busiek. It's a character by the name of the person's name is Bruce Wainwright, and his parent, and he's obsessed with Batman. He loves Batman. He's a Batman fan, reads the comics, dressed up as a kid as Batman, and then his parents die in a very similar way. And it's going to focus on his emotional turmoil. He can understand where Batman's maybe coming from. But that's the thing, is they don't focus that much on the superhero. It's more along lines of how these characters react to stuff. So I'm extraordinarily excited. It's coming out in, let's see, November. It's going to be out in November. The first issue will be out in November. So I am extraordinarily looking for that. Superman Secret Identity, MJ, if you get a chance, check it out. It is a lot better than the way I described it. It is actually a very entertaining story. And I just reread it like a last year or something like that. It's a really good story. And I like it a lot.
Just added it to my notes.
John Paul Leone is doing the artwork for the new Batman series called Batman Creature of the Night that Zach is writing. And Stuart Immonen did the artwork for Secret Identity. So it's a nice little – the artwork is going to look good. So I'm extremely excited for that. Next month, Baltimore Comic-Con is going to be the 20th through the 22nd. I think, or the 22nd through the 24th, I'm sorry. Baltimore Comic-Con is always a lot of fun. It's one of those cons that focuses more on the comics, and a lot of the comic creators, they say that it's one of their top 5 favorite cons because it is focused on them. And so he gets a lot of the big time people. He gets lots of big time people. And the guy who runs it runs my store up the street. So he's a cool guy. He, in fact, he let me know, this is so cool, the day before he revealed this to everybody else, he showed me the newest flyer that he was going to post the next day for the Baltimore Comic-Con, which was announcing Frank Miller as one of his guests.
Oh, really?
And as a guest of honor type of thing. And he showed me the day before it was released, which is really cool because I just happened to be in the store. And he just happened to say, it's like, hey, I want you to see him, be really cool. And he turns his phone over and it's a picture of the flyers. Like, yeah, check that out. I was like, yeah. He's only going to be there on Friday, though. That's the only thing. He's only there on Friday. That's okay, but he's going to be there. So, and then the next day he posted it, and I was able to talk about it then. So it was kind of neat that I got that little inside scoop on that. So that was kind of neat. But it's always it's a fun show. They are getting slightly a little bit more pop culture, but nowhere near as bad as San Diego. Linda Carter, who we all know Linda Carter.
We all know Linda Carter.
She's actually married to like a senator or something, and they live in D.C. She's coming up, and she's going to do a concert because she's apparently a singer. She's going to do a concert at the Baltimore Comic-Con. I guess maybe she's going to stick around and maybe sign stuff, I guess. I don't know. But she's actually being brought in to do a musical concert. So that's kind of cool. You see Wonder Woman singing. You know, it's kind of cool.
Spin one time for us.
She might. I mean, she's always she loves the role. And then they're also announcing that this is something that both of us hate, but the kid who plays Bruce Wayne in Gotham, along with, I think, the guy who plays Alfred, are going to be there also at the con signing stuff. They do one or two. They had Kevin Smith there a couple of years ago. They bring in some of these little pop culture. Not a lot. It's like one or two little bits and pieces here and there to get maybe a little extra revenue. But I mean, they really don't need it because the one year I remember I went, it had been like the first time I'd been in a few years when they moved it to the big section of the con. They had about 120,000 people for the whole weekend. And that place was, they moved it from the small part of the convention center to the big part, and it was still packed. And I was like, oh my God, this is good. But at the same time, you're like, and there's too many people, and I don't know what I'm doing, but I get to run into some friends and stuff like that. That's really kind of cool. So that's coming up in about a month or so, I guess you could say. Cool. So that'll be cool. I'm looking forward to that. Let's see. Talked about Joss Whedon, Zack Snyder. We talked about that. Oh, Katie Sackhoff, Starbuck from Battlestar Galactica. She's been cast as a villain in season 3 of The Flash. So.
Right. Hopefully they will not have a speedster as a villain this year. So that would be good. I think that they're moving back towards the sunny, funny, happy Barry Allen instead of that mopey one that was last season, with the Flashpoint. So I think that'll be good. I love Katie Sackhoff, so I think she'll be a great addition to that show.
Oh, absolutely. And then they're going to go absolutely crazy. They got Black Lightning coming up. So they're going to have, 4 or 5 of them on the show now. They're going to actually, I think they said they're going to finally they're going to finally air the Vixen cartoon that you could only get through streaming or whatever. They're going to air it on the network now too, so you'll be able to see that too, which would be because it is considered to be part of the universe, so the Arrowverse.
She shows up. Yeah, she's been in Arrow before. She's been in Flash, so I think it'll be really good to have her part of the universe there. Looking forward to that.
That'd be cool. Let's see. I'm not going to talk about that because I don't want to. Oh yeah. So, did you hear about the Infinity War? We talked about the Infinity War footage that was at the D23 convention a couple years ago, or a couple months ago.
Yeah.
Doesn't that sound awesome?
It does sound, and it looked. Did you see it?
I didn't see it. No.
Oh yeah, I've seen it. It looked, because I got it before they yanked it from the internet. I'm like, I watched it over and over again. Even though it was shot from the side, you could tell somebody had their shaky camera trying to hide it. It looked amazing. So I cannot wait to see this movie.
I mean, the fact that you've got, they said Black Panther and the Winter Soldier guiding an army, Spider-Man getting his spider sense, Thanos pulling the moon down on them and crushing them, Captain America in a beard, Black Widow with the blonde hair and the back tattoo, the Thor running into the Guardians of the Galaxy, literally.
That was the funniest part of it. They're just going along in their ship, and all of a sudden they're like, "What is that?" Boom, and he's like stuck to the windshield, unconscious, and I'm like, "It's Thor!" It's just. It's amazing. I can't wait for it. I really cannot wait for this movie to come out.
Yeah, so that one's, and then seeing the trailer for Thor Ragnarok has got me excited for that also. The Black Panther trailer, my God, was that freaking amazing. Awesome also. Yes. My God. And originally they said that the original cut was going to be 4 hours long. I was like, man, they should release that. Yeah, come on.
Yeah, build in a break right at the 2 hour. Just like, okay, everybody go pee, get your sodas, come back for part 2. I mean, how awesome would that be to be able to sit through 4 hours of a Marvel movie like that with like a 2 hour break just in the middle of it, just long enough to run out, get some new refreshments, and come right back and start part 2. I'd love that.
I think it would be freaking awesome too. And you know what? I think that's going to make a lot of money also. I mean, it's in February when there's not going to be a lot of. I mean, February's starting to become a pretty good year, a pretty good month. I mean, Deadpool made bank in February. The 50 Shades of Grey, made money, and that was Valentine's Day related. But Deadpool made a lot of money. Even Superman, Batman, I think that was February or March. That's sort of that. That was March maybe, but that still had that sort of thing to it. I think Black Panther's going to make a lot of money. I think it's going to make a lot of money.
It is,
and I want to see it.
Just the buzz that it's got going already, and then when that trailer came out, it's just like it drove everybody crazy, and like the posters that they're showing for it, I mean, it's that's going to make a ton of money. It
looks like there's an artist by the name of Jackson Geist, Butch Geist they call him, and he's been doing this comic called Black Panther and the Crew, which is him and Storm and Misty Knight and a few others who are stripped down. They're not wearing their costumes, they're in regular street clothes, and they're sort of helping out in the community type of thing. And the visuals in the Black Panther movie look a lot like a Jackson Geist, Butch Geist artwork, because he's got that sort of super hyper realistic, but not where like what Greg Land does. He takes pictures and then he draws over them, stuff like that. This is more that Jackson Geist, he comes out and he actually draws the stuff. He's got sort of, and it made me look like this is a lot like a really good comic book looking. What you're supposed to do. I mean, the way they set the shots up, the way the bad guys, the characters, they all look like they would have walked out of a comic book, and that is which in retrospect is kind of what you want to see. I mean, that was what the problem was with the X-Men movie. While it was, for in 2000 when it was considered to be unique and different, because by that time the comic book movies hadn't been that great, and the X-Men comes out, but they're all wearing black leather. It's like, I don't want to see them wear black leather. I want to wear their colorful, blue and yellow for Cyclops and yellow and black for Wolverine, and Jean Grey wearing her green. I want to see those things, but no, it's like, let's take a black leather.
Yeah.
Because people don't want to see costumes.
Yeah, no.
Morons. But no, yeah, I'm really looking forward to Black Panther. Looking forward to Infinity War. I think those two are going to be great. What's DC got coming out? Anything? Aquaman. Aquaman will be out next year, I think, because they've been filming that as well. Mara looks pretty good. I like how she looks. They got her character pretty much down pretty good. The red hair and the green scaly suit, they've got that pretty good. So I'll give them credit for that. So we'll see. We'll get a better view. I'll start doing a little bit more research, and we'll get some more stuff we can talk about down the line. Another thing we can talk about down the line is, did you hear about the Hellboy reboot?
I did. I don't know. I don't know why. I know that people love Hellboy. I'm not crazy about it. The first movie, I was like, eh. The second movie was even more, eh. So, I mean, I guess they need to reboot it, but is that really a draw? I just don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. A lot of people got mad because Perlman's not doing it, and neither is Guillermo del Toro, which I would have liked to see them be able to finish up their trilogy. That would be nice because they had a plan to do a trilogy. I like Perlman as Hellboy. I thought he caught the character pretty good. But as I said, Hellboy, the movie series, is not Hellboy. And that's why I'm having a little bit higher hope for this one. They got David Harbour, who was in Stranger Things, who was really good in that as the police officer. They got him doing Hellboy, and they're going to be focusing more on more like the comic Hellboy because, you know, in the movie they knew Hellboy was going to be a hard draw because not a lot of people knew who the character was, so they had to say, you know what women like? They like a love story. And Ron Perlman, you know, when he was the Beast with Linda Hamilton in Beauty and the Beast, you know, he played the ultimate, made it all work. And everyone loves that show. And then, like, why don't we do that with this? And it didn't work. It didn't work because the characters that they played in the comics don't have romantic relationship. They are a team. They work together. Right. They might be friends, but nothing is going. Yeah, nothing's going through their heads. Like, you know what? I kind of want to bone. You know, there's nothing about that. And so I'll wait and see how it goes, but I like the casting of David Harbour. I think he'll be pretty good. He's got the build for it, and I think he's got the attitude because I loved him in Stranger Things. He was fantastic. I mean, he's starting off as the alcoholic detective and then gradually finding his space and becoming this guy, and then seeing him in the second part, which is going to be great, coming out in October. That's going to be fantastic. But I think he'll do really well, and I think Mignola is going to be a little bit more hands-on than he was with the Guillermo del Toro one, so maybe that'll help out also. So I'm going to give it up. I'll wait and see how it is, but the way that they seem to be selling it to me is that it's going to be completely different and more like the comic, which I think is
that would be much better. So
yeah,
we'll see.
Speaking of excellent casting, not a lot of people know about this one. Valiant is doing, they're starting their movie universe. Valiant is doing, the first trailer actually is coming out tomorrow, I think, for Ninjak versus the Valiant universe.
I love Ninjak.
and the fact is, I think what they're doing is brilliant. Because instead of, you know, setting up, you know, like a Marvel universe and DCU universe with like one hero, you're going to get them all. Because they already got Bloodshot cast because he's going to be in a new movie eventually down the line. And I think they've got some of the Harbinger people are going to be in there. I don't know about EXO. I don't know about Armstrong or any of those. I don't, or the, I think Eternal Warrior is also being cast as well. So you're going to start seeing all them. So the first trailer is going to come out tomorrow, I think they said, for the movie. And they showed the picture of Ninjak, like of his face, his costume. It's the purple and black, and it looks like the ninja costume is like, oh, this might actually be pretty good. So I'm going to wait and see what that is. I'll check that. It should be tomorrow. I think they said, let's see, 28th is tomorrow. It should be either tomorrow or something like that. I'm sure it'll be plastered.
Oh, it'll be everywhere.
Yeah. So I'll check that out. But so I'm looking forward to that. But Valiant bought the rights to Quantum and Woody. Have you ever heard of Quantum and Woody?
No.
It's brothers. One's a black guy, one's a white guy, and they're brothers. But the black guy is sort of like Deadpool. But he's wearing not like Deadpool, but he's got a mask and he wears a costume and he's got kind of that Deadpool sense of humor. And then you have the white guy who is also kind of goofy as well. And I think they share powers they have to be together to use their powers, and they're fairly powerful. But the comic itself is one of these really tongue-in-cheek, hilarious, funny Deadpool-esque type of humorous type of stories, and it's a lot better than it sounds. But
it sounds good.
It's good. But right now, that's since it's in the Valiant universe, that's one of the movies they're thinking about making is a Quantum and Woody one, which I think would be really good because it'll be a comedy. It's a superhero comedy. That's you can't go wrong with that. And they are talking to Joel McHale to play the white guy. And I think that would be the absolute perfect casting for this character because Joel McHale, we know how he is, and he sort of fits the character of the white guy. So I can't wait to see I hope they do something smart and with the black guy. You only see him mostly in costume, but I don't want like a stand-up comedian or something like that. You know, like a not Chris Tucker, the guy who's big now. His name's Chris, right?
Kevin Hart.
Kevin Hart. No, it's Kevin. Yeah, I don't want a Kevin Hart thing.
No, he's like he'd be a pocket hero. He's too small.
He is. Yes, he is. You need to have a big guy, who
Right.
can
Yeah.
who's also
Presence.
presence and also very funny also. So I thought that Joel McHale, if he does sign, is actually a really good decision. So that's good. I think I'm going to drop a few more things in your lap. I think we're going to head out. Okay. Did you hear about? We're going to get into a little bit of just comic books now. Have you heard about the BC Avengers, before the Avengers team? Yes, I actually.
I'm so mixed and back and forth on that. I mean, it's like, are they tongue in cheek? Are they being serious? I can't tell.
But the fact is, you've got Odin and the Phoenix Force and the Spirit of Vengeance and all these things that inhabit other heroes in the present day or from the present day combined together as a team. I think it's a fascinating. To me, I'm kind of and the fact that I think you got Jason Aaron writing it, who's actually been doing a really good job with his Thor. I think that might be what's going to push it over. I'm dropping Marvel left and right because I hate what they're doing right now. I absolutely despise.
Did you try reading Secret Empire?
I did not. I refuse to.
Don't do it. I finally quit. Like, everybody's dead or evil or confused. I don't know what's happening with them, but they are doing to their comics what DC is doing to their movies. So I'm like, I can't read them anymore. It's horrible. But yeah, that one does look interesting. The Ghost Rider on a flaming mammoth. I'm like, should I laugh at it? Should I think it's awesome? I don't know.
Good point, actually. So we'll see about that. I don't know. Here's a couple of independent comics that you might be interested in as well. Maybe not, but Tom Zoller is a independent artist. His style is very cartoonish. He did a book called Love and Capes, which basically was Superman and Lois Lane, but it was in a different thing. I'm very proud of myself about this. When I was a brand manager at Diamond, I was Tom Zoller's first ever brand manager. The way we did was, if you wanted to get your comic book into previews, you would send us a copy of it. Say, we'd like to, with all information, we'd like you to look at this and see if we could possibly, get put in the next previews, whatever. They would have their own production company name, whatever. And the way the brand managers worked was about 4 of us, and they divided up the comic section by alphabet, so like A to F, and then G to K, and then, whatever down the line, so everybody gets covered. And then we would do other things like the posters or trading cards or gaming. We'd be added to our pop because they're not as intense as the comic books are. So what Tom Zoller's production company was fell into my area, which I think was like E to N or something like that. So his production name. So I was his brand manager. So I had to promote his book and stuff like that. And I enjoyed it. I liked it. I mean, we vote on it. We all get the copy, or we spread it around to each other. We all read it, and then we have a meeting and we discuss, okay, which ones do you want to put in previews, and which ones do you want to reject? And so we put them into 2 piles. And so we all agreed we liked Love and Capes. We thought it would be a good fit. So I was his first brand manager. So very proud of him when he took over My Little Pony and got a job with IDW, and now he's doing stuff through IDW. Well, he just released his newest book, which is, to me, is one of those ideas. Is like, why didn't I think of that one? It's called Time and Vine, and it takes place on a winery. And it's a specific wine that their winery makes, and they've been around since like the 1800s. And if you find an 1856 Cabernet or whatever, and you take a quick drink from it, you can time travel to 1856. Oh wow! At any time, and you're going to be on the vine. You're going to be in the winery, but it's you can go at any time. So it's a top secret thing, and they're going and you. They say that they haven't gotten into much detail, but you can't really change anything in the past. And even if you say or do things, it's not going to change anything in the future, whatever. It's just a way for you to just go and look at history and see. And you're only there for a small amount of time. Then you just disappear and you're right back. So it's not like you have to have 88, go 88 miles per hour, or have 1.1 gigawatts to get back in time. You drink some wine, you walk around 1856 for a while, you can go into town, you can do whatever you want for the time span you have. But here's the thing, if if say you get detained in town, and your time is up, you're not going to be trapped in time. You'll just disappear, and that's going to freak people out. So they would prefer you to be back in the winery and in the basement, right, and you get back in time. But even if you're detained or elsewhere, you're just going to disappear, and you'll make it back to the fine. So basically, it was about a woman who decides she's a school teacher, and during the summer she decides to get a part-time job when she finds out about this time travel thing from the guy who runs it. And so she's a history teacher, so of course that adds to it. So he takes her as like his student and takes her back to these different things. So they've only done 2 issues. It's a really cute story, and it's nothing offensive. I mean, they're setting up a story where her mom has Alzheimer's, so she's starting to not remember things. And when the woman took a jaunt back to like the 1970s, where her mom used to go when she was younger to this winery and hang out with her friends, she discovers that she has an aunt that she never knew about. Her mom had a sister that her never talked about it. And so of course she's obsessed with finding out about who this woman is, but she doesn't get a chance. So that's how the second episode ended. And there are people who are aware of the time travel. So there are people who've gone back in time, and they know, the people who work in the winery know that there's something going on. So there's like a small amount of people, like 3 or 5 to 10 people who know you can go back in time. So some of them just stay back there, and they know who you are when you mention, like, say, put it on Isaac's tab or something like that. They know, okay, you're from the future or whatever. They don't know when or who you are, but they know you're from the future. And so they'll talk to you. And so she talked to the wife of the old man who's teaching her in the future about time travel. She passed away, so the old man sort of he's a widow now, but she's the one who gave her a picture of her aunt, because she was freaking out because, like, I need to stay and find out who it is. She's like, no, you can't, because you're going to disappear any second now. And so, but she said because she knew that this woman was obsessed with finding out, she took a picture of who the sister was and wrote a note. And they have like a file. They say, okay, you just go to the file for 1975 and you should have it in there, because one of the rules is when you go back in time, you have to write a little bit of like a little blog piece on a book about what you did and what you saw. That way you have a history of what you saw, so you can go back in and refer back to stuff. So it's a neat little thing. It's $4.99, but it's double sized, and there's no ads, and it's just it's gorgeous, and it's a really good book. So I recommend that one. Another good one is Crosswind, which is Gail Simone's new independent book that she's doing with Kat Skaggs. And the premise is, those old 1980s films where people, teenagers would switch bodies with their parents, and you had the thing. Well, this time you have a mousy, abused woman trading places with a male assassin. So the male assassin is now in the body of this mousy, abused woman, and this abused woman is now in the body of this assassin. And they've only had 2 issues of this also, and it is very good. Kat Skaggs' artwork is lovely, and the storyline is just fun. And they each have their own little power, like the abused wife, when she gets into the body of the hitman just happened to be in a hotel room where he just killed somebody. And so there's blood and the body's in there. And after the initial shock, she goes in and she cleans the entire kitchen and wraps up the body perfectly, because that's what she did in the past. So now she's erased everything that's happened, and she's also able to come up with some good excuses and stuff like, hey, nothing happened. There's no proof that anything happened. She's able to get rid of everything. And then meanwhile, of course, the assassin finds out about the mousy abuse thing, and he's starting to kick ass. I mean, he's not taking sass from the stepson she has, is like kind of this wimpy asshole to her, and she's like starts slapping him. He's like, don't talk to me like that, you son of a bitch, type of thing. And then it's like, wait a second, and this kid's getting bullied. He's like, who are these guys who are bullying you? I was like, let's go get them. So the next issue might be the mom coming out and is going to maybe kill some of the bullies. and then it's just such a great story, and I can't wait to see where it goes. But they have cool. 2 covers for each issue, and one is the perspective of the mousy wife in the hitman's body, and then the hitman in the mousy wife's body. So it's like you can see the reflection in something, so it's part of the story. So you got 2 covers, so you can choose whatever one you want. It's really kind of cool. So I like that as well. So that's a good one.
It's
And
Gail
then,
Simone, so you know.
yeah, she's and Kat Skaggs is doing a real good job of artwork too. All right, three little DC stories, and then we're gonna get out of here. Okay, MJ. As I talked about, Batman with Tom King it's another book you need to check out. He's doing a really good job with that. I think Tom King is my new favorite writer because he wrote The Vision, which was a good story. He's writing this Batman, which has been really a good story also. And he's doing something different. I mean, Batman's been bi-weekly, so they're like around issue 29 now, even though the Rebirth has only been out for a year. They've doubled the issue numbers because it comes out twice a month. So he's told all these different stories, and he's been changing Batman slightly, but it makes sense. It's a character development. It's not like, oh, let's make Batman do this. No, he starts off as Batman in the beginning of Rebirth that Tom King wrote, and you can see the change in him going up there. And one of the changes is that he is starting to feel the need that he needs to maybe settle down. You know, stop being Batman, or stop being Batman all the time, and maybe start settling down stuff. And it didn't help that he actually got taken back to the Flashpoint world in a crossover they did with the Flash, and he met his dad, who was the evil murderous Batman. And they found out of each other, and so they started talking. And as they were leaving, his dad, who Batman just sees his dad, his dad says, don't make mistakes I did. Live your life, that type of thing. It's a typical cliched story, but live your life. Don't become obsessed with, because he's having all these problems with, being obsessed with Batman and killing as well. He's getting tired of that. So he's telling his son, even though I'm not your real father, I am your father, and, do this. And so that sort of got Batman to start thinking about things in a different way. And he's been having this relationship with Catwoman. So eventually he decided that this might be the best time. So he proposed to Catwoman. Now, we haven't gotten her answer yet. Tom King's apparently writing that right now. It's going to happen after this storyline, because the jokes, the war of jokes and riddles is a flashback. So Batman's telling the story. It's funny. Batman's telling the story to Catwoman while they're in bed after sex. So he's basically just
as they do.
Yeah, as they do. But it's a plot device to connect the story, even though it's a flashback to present day. So, but there was a really good two-parter which detailed their relationship and how it built to the point where they become this. You see how a couple gets together, like with you and your couples, and my couple, and how people get together in relationships. You can see it building in these two issues of Catwoman and that Catwoman, it focuses on Catwoman and Batman, and then at least his progression. So we'll find out what happens with that. But I think that's what I've always liked. I always like seeing heroes progress past what we expect them, because when you see them do the same thing over and over again, like Spider-Man and Batman, they're doing the same thing over and over again, it gets a little boring. It's like, okay, you're not aging, you're not moving on, change up a little bit, get married, have kids. That's why I was so mad when Joe Quesada decided that he didn't want Batman or Spider-Man to be married anymore. It was somebody else who did. I forget who it was. But Joe Quesada wrote the story, and they didn't want Spider-Man to be married to Mary Jane anymore, so they broke them up. It was like, why did you do that? There is such a wealth of ideas. And then somebody and somebody listened, because now out of Secret Wars, they spun off a comic that's outside of the Marvel Universe called Spider-Man Renew Your Vows. And it's Spider-Man and Mary Jane married with a daughter. And that's progression. So they're showing that. Superman, which I also love, Pierre Tomasi and Patrick Gleason are doing a fantastic job on that, has Superman, Lois, and their son, Jonathan, working together. And Batman is, still has Damian in his life. And I think I talked about this before. Super Sons is a really good book.
Yeah, I did read a couple of those. Those are pretty good. Yeah, I've been reading a couple of those, yeah.
Because it's so great. Jonathan doesn't take Damian shit. Damian tries to pull shit on Jonathan, but Jonathan doesn't give a rat's ass about it.
Calls him on it, yeah. Those are pretty good. They're entertaining.
And that's the building blocks of a strong friendship. And I really like that. I think that's a really good and the fact that Damian keeps coming back to him. He keeps says, I'm done with you. I don't want to mess with you. Oh, by the way, can you help me out with this? Yeah. So those are progressions. That's what I like to see. I like to see stuff like that. I like to see that. And Greg Rucka's run that he just finished with Wonder Woman, he brought Steve Trevor back into her life and sort of got them to couple together also, which is nice. Also, we'll see if the new creative team is going to stick with it. But again, it's a logical progression. It wasn't just something they say, hey, let's get them together. It took about 20 issues of character development to get to that point where they are back together sort of as a couple. So, we'll see what happens. I mean, but that's what I like to see. I like to see progression in character. Like I liked when Black Panther married Storm. That was a great
growth.
Now they broke them up, I think, but they're still friends or whatever. I'm not exactly sure. And then one last thing, actually two last things. Tom King again. These are both Tom King books. Did you see the DC crossovers with the Looney Tunes books that came out? Batman Elmer Fudd is fantastic.
Is it?
Batman Elmer Fudd is one of the best stories you've ever read because Tom King wrote it, and he writes it like a film noir, but you still have Elmer Fudd with his speech impediment, Wabbit and stuff like that. And then Bugs Bunny is actually like some cheap guy who goes around as like a snitch, that type of thing, and there stuff like that. And Silver St. Cloud makes an appearance in there, and Silva St. Cloud, and Elmer Fudd was in love with her, but she was in love with Bruce, and then she ends up getting murdered. So then he thinks Bruce Wayne killed her. So now Elmer Fudd is hunting down Bruce Wayne, but then of course Batman comes in, says, I need to find out who killed Silver St. Cloud, and the guy Elmer Fudd's like, no, it's Bruce Wayne. He's like, no, I don't think it was. And Elmer Fudd, he didn't take any shit either. I mean, he shot Batman a number of times, bounced off him because of his armor, stuff like that. But he wasn't scared. He was like, but then they tentatively decided to work together when somehow it was proven that Bruce Wayne didn't kill him. So they had to figure out who actually did the killing, and then eventually made its way around that Bugs Bunny was the one who was the killer. And so they come back to get ready to take out Bugs Bunny, but then they have a conversation. It's not a typical fight scene about what's happening. Then there's a twist I'm not going to get into, but it's really it was really amazingly how good that story was. It's Elmer Fudd and Batman, but it was very well done. It was really good. And so and then one last Tom King, Mr. Miracle. The first issue just came out. Definitely check it out. They've got a second printing come out in time for when the second issue comes out in mid-September. So I recommend. It's a 12-issue miniseries, and it's very good. So
I'll try that. Yeah.
Tom King, I think so far, 2017. Right now, Tom King, I think, is the best comic book writer we have right now, just from his body of work we got. So if you haven't checked any of those out, MJ or anybody out there watching the show, go find anything with Tom King's name on. He did the Vertigo series, which I don't know the name of it, but he's supposedly really good also. So
good stuff.
Anything else you want to add, MJ?
I don't think so. I've still got some catching up to do. I'm getting back into the swing of things. So yeah.
No, understandable. Absolutely understandable. So excellent. I'm glad you're back.
Good to be back.
We'll get back together again sometime in September. So that'll be great. So thanks for coming on, MJ. As always, it's great to have you on board.
Thank you.
Everybody else out there, have a great Labor Day weekend. I will not be doing an episode of Dylan Knows next weekend because my stepbrother is actually getting married in Rhode Island. So Dawn and I are taking the train up on Friday, the 1st, and his wedding is on the 2nd. And then we'll come back on the 3rd, and we'll have, we'll got to get the kids because they'll be at my in-laws' house. And then we have that Monday to recover. And then guess what? School starts. So we're going to get back. Yeah, we're going to get back into our little routine about that. So it just, since I've done a couple of bonus episodes over the last month or so, I'm in the perfect low spot right now. So I can take a break. I did one to recover from my week off on my vacation. So I basically still have one every week. So I'm good on that. So I'm going to take next week off, and then we'll come back and do another show after that. Get back into fall, Dylan, because fall is my season, and hopefully things
football season starting.
Football season, yes. Let's go. Yeah, we'll do that real quick. How do the Panthers look this year? I haven't been paying much attention.
I'm cautiously optimistic. They're looking pretty good. You know, they've made some good acquisitions, kept some key people that they needed to. If everybody stays healthy, I'm feeling good about them. I think they're going to have a good season. So.
The Ravens have upgraded their defense. They're going to be one of the best defenses if everybody stays healthy. They're going to be one of the best defenses in football this year. And that's not just me being a homer. That's if you've seen the last 3 preseason games. Not that preseason is a big deal, but it is if you think about it, because it shows depth that the defense has been holding teams. I think we beat the Skins week 1, 23-3. We beat the Dolphins. I think we held them scoreless. I think it was like 24-0. And then we gave up only 10 to the Bills. So our offense is troubled because everybody's injured.
Yeah.
We got people getting injured in practice. We got people injured during the game, stuff like that. So our offensive depth is a lot less, but our defensive depth is amazing right now. We have a great defense. We have too much. It's at that point where, you know, cut time is coming up. There's only one more game left, and then it's going to be the regular season. You got to trim your roster down. We're going to lose some of this depth, but the good news is we might be able to get some key offensive things in trades or whatever with these good defensive guys. So we'll keep about that. I'm much like you, cautiously optimistic. We haven't seen Joe Flacco throw a single pass in the preseason yet. He hasn't really had a chance to. We haven't seen how Macklin's going to be reacting to it, and we haven't seen how our new running game is yet. So our offense is a big question right now. I mean, we're scoring lots of points, but that's because we're going up against the second and third stringers on other teams, and they're weak.
We are not risking anybody.
Like, you know, a good example is at halftime. You know, the third preseason games when they play all their big guys. Our third preseason game was last night. At halftime, we were down 7-3. So our offense did jack. It was our kicker who scored that. And then sure enough, we got a touchdown and another field goal or something like that to win the game yesterday. But we'll see what happens. But I think our defense is gonna give us a couple games. I think even if our offense is horrible, whatever, I think our defense is going to keep it down so where we might be able to win like 6-3, 9-7, that type of thing. So because our kicking game's still good. Tucker had a little bit of a scare yesterday. He got hit hard and he went through concussion protocol, but he's okay. Good. But if he can keep focus on that and we can get into good location for him to kick. He can kick from like 60 and still get it in there. We should be okay. So I'm probably gonna see if our offense doesn't catch on fire, you're gonna probably see lots of 9-7s, 13-3 games, that type of stuff, because our defense our defense is gonna be filthy this year. So good luck to your Panthers. I'll keep an eye on them. Good luck. And good luck to the rest of, hopefully things are getting better for you, MJ. You should be doing good. So MJ, I'll talk to you in a little bit. I'll see you in about a month or so. We'll get back into this again. I'll see all you guys in a couple weeks. All right.
All right. Thank you.
Happy Labor Day.